If you reach into your pocket right now or dig through that old cup holder in your car, there is a massive chance you will pull out a penny from the year 1989. And if you were like 99% of the population, you will look at that modern date, sigh, and toss it right back into the console. You assume that because it is from the late 1980s, it has absolutely no historical significance, no rarity, and zero financial potential. To you, it is just a cheap, lightweight piece of pocket change. But that exact assumption, that psychological blind spot, is exactly how silent fortunes slip through the hands of everyday Americans. Welcome to Coin Reveal. Today, we are completely destroying the myth that modern pennies are worthless. We are looking at the 1989 Lincoln Memorial Cent. We are going to expose the flawless survivors, the microscopic errors, and a massive historical secret about the year 1989 that makes certain mistakes from this year the absolute end of an era. We are uncovering the hidden wealth that wealthy collectors are quietly paying absolute fortunes to own right now. 1989 No Mint Mark Penny. Let us start with the baseline, the coin that is most likely sitting at the bottom of a jar in your kitchen at this very moment. If you hold a 1989 penny and look directly below the date and you see absolutely nothing, that coin was born at the Mother Mint in Philadelphia. To understand why this specific coin can hold life-changing value, you have to understand exactly what it is made of and how fragile it truly is. By 1989, the United States Mint had completely abandoned the solid copper pennies of the past. This coin is built with a soft, highly reactive zinc core, and it is coated in a microscopically thin layer of pure copper plating. It weighs only 2.5 grams. When these coins left the Philadelphia Mint, they were essentially doomed. The moment they hit the banking system, they were scratched by automated counting machines, dropped on concrete floors, and exposed to the oils on human hands. Because of that cheap zinc core, the slightest scratch causes moisture to enter the coin, leading to immediate black carbon spotting, bubbling, and devastating zinc rot. Because they're so fragile, finding a heavily circulated 1989 penny is incredibly common, and those worn-out coins are only worth 1 cent. But that undeniable fragility is exactly where your financial opportunity skyrockets. Elite coin collectors do not pay massive premiums for average coins. They pay for absolute, untouched perfection. Wealthy buyers who build modern registry sets are hunting for a 1989 Philadelphia penny that looks like it is frozen in time. If you can find one in a flawless, pristine Mint State 68 or Mint State 69 condition, a coin with blinding, uninterrupted red copper luster and zero physical flaws across Abraham Lincoln's profile or the memorial on the reverse, the value absolutely explodes. But you must listen to this warning as if your financial future depends on it. The single most expensive mistake you can make is trying to wipe a fingerprint off a modern penny. The second you rub that delicate copper plating with a cloth, you create microscopic hairlines. You instantly destroy the original mint surface, and the collector value collapses to zero in a fraction of a second. Never, ever clean your coins. An untouched, visually explosive 1989 no mint mark penny commands massive premiums on the auction block, often selling for hundreds of dollars. But if you think finding a perfect Philadelphia strike is intense, you are not ready for what was happening halfway across the country. 1989 D penny. When the United States Mint facility in Denver fired up their heavy presses in 1989, they stamped their iconic sharp letter D right below the date. The American economy was roaring at the end of the decade, and the Denver Mint was mandated to produce billions of pennies to keep commerce flowing. Because the production numbers were so unfathomably massive, people immediately assume these coins are completely worthless, but volume never equals quality. The Denver Mint was pushing their machinery to the absolute breaking point. Millions of these 1989 D pennies were violently ejected into the banking system with terrible quality control. They suffered from weak strikes, meaning the fine details on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial on the back were mushy, flat, and blended together. The planchets were often contaminated before they were even struck. Finding a 1989 D that has been heavily circulated is the easiest thing in the world, but finding a 1989 D that somehow survived the chaos of that production year, struck with booming, razor-sharp details, perfectly defined memorial steps, and absolutely zero surface blemishes, puts you in a completely different financial bracket. Auction bidders watch the modern Denver market relentlessly. When a perfectly struck 1989 D penny with deep, uninterrupted red luster hits the auction block, the tension in the room shifts. Bidding becomes a calculated war between deep-pocketed collectors who know exactly how frustrating it is to find a flawless modern Denver strike. These coins act as a silent fortune hiding behind a single tiny letter. But you have to pay attention to the preservation. Keep it away from moisture, protect it in a rigid holder, and get it professionally graded to lock in that massive value. Now, brace yourself, because the absolute peak of the 1989 treasure hunt is not just about a perfect strike, it's about a massive historical milestone and a mechanical error that collectors are obsessed with. 1989 D-repunched mint mark error. This is the monster. This is the ultimate hidden treasure that people are blindly spending or throwing back into the coin jar without a second thought, and it holds a secret that most amateur collectors don't even know. The year 1989 is incredibly important in United States mint history. It was the absolute final year that mint marks were hand-punched onto the working dies by a human being using a steel mallet. Starting in 1990, the mint mark was applied directly to the master hub, eliminating human error. That makes 1989 the end of an era and the last chance for the legendary repunched mint mark error to ever occur on a Lincoln cent. Because this was the final year of the hand-punching method, error collectors are fiercely dedicated to finding the mistakes made in 1989. Sometimes the mint workers struck the steel punch, the punch bounced, and they struck it again, leaving a slightly offset, duplicated D stamped permanently into the steel die. This created the 1989 D repunched mint mark, or RPM. You can't see this by just casually glancing at the coin in the palm of your hand. You need patience and a jeweler's loupe. Grab your magnifying glass and look incredibly closely at the D resting directly below the year 1989. Does the D look normal, or does it look unusually thick? Do you see a faint secondary D hiding slightly above, below, or protruding from the inner curves of the main letter? If you see that clear, distinct doubling on the mint mark, your heart should be pounding. This is not a scratch. This is not post-mint damage. This is a genuine, documented mint error from the final year it was ever physically possible for a human to make this mistake. Error collectors are a completely different breed of buyers. They don't care if the coin is perfectly shiny and red. They care exclusively about the government's mistake itself. A circulated 1989 D RPM commands massive money, and an uncirculated one is a true lottery ticket. These coins create intense bidding wars that push the value into life-changing territory. And the most shocking part is that they are still out there right now. They're sitting in your car console, hiding in your pocket change, and completely unrecognized by people who think a modern penny is just a cheap piece of zinc. Stop ignoring your pocket change. You probably have a 1977 penny sitting at the bottom of a junk drawer, buried in your car's center console, or mixed into a heavy glass jar of spare change right now. Because 1977 feels like it was just yesterday to so many of us, most people look at the date on this coin and immediately write it off as worthless. It is not an ancient relic, and it is not a shiny new release. To the average person, it is just a dirty, incredibly common piece of copper that isn't even worth the effort to bend down and pick up off the sidewalk. But that exact psychological blind spot, that assumption that coins from the late 70s are just boring pocket change, is exactly how literal fortunes slip through the hands of everyday Americans without them ever realizing it. Welcome to USA Coin Reveal. Today, we are completely tearing down the myth that you only need 100-year-old coins to make massive money. We are taking a deep dive into the 1977 Lincoln Memorial Cent, exposing the flawless survivors, the microscopic mechanical errors, and the absolute freak of nature mint mistakes that wealthy collectors are quietly paying life-changing money to own right now. 1977 No Mint Mark Penny. Let us start with the baseline, the coin that is most likely sitting on your kitchen counter at this very moment. If you hold a 1977 penny and look directly below the date and you see absolutely nothing, that coin was born at the Mother Mint in Philadelphia. To understand the hidden wealth inside this specific coin, you have to look at what was happening in America in 1977. The country was dealing with the aftermath of massive inflation and a rapidly changing economy. Money was moving fast, and the United States Mint was pumping out currency at an astronomical rate to keep up with daily commerce. But unlike the cheap, lightweight zinc pennies they produce today, this 1977 coin is real, heavy money. It is struck in the traditional composition of 95% pure copper and 5% zinc. It weighs exactly 3.11 grams. When you hold it, it feels significant in your hand, carrying that classic, deep, metallic presence. Millions upon millions of these were pumped into heavy circulation, passing through hands at gas stations, grocery stores, and local diners. Because it was an absolute workhorse of the American economy, almost every single 1977 Philadelphia penny you will ever lay your eyes on today is completely worn out. The steps on the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse are rubbed flat. Abraham Lincoln's cheekbone is smooth, and the copper has oxidized into a dark, dull brown. And that undeniable fact is exactly where your financial opportunity skyrockets. Elite coin collectors do not pay massive premiums for average survived coins. They pay for absolute, untouched perfection. They are hunting for a 1977 penny that somehow defied the odds and never spent a single second inside a cash register. If you can find one in a flawless, pristine mint state 68 red grade, still radiating its original blinding, fiery red mint luster, the financial value explodes. But you must listen to this warning carefully, because your financial future depends on it. The absolute fastest way to turn a high-value coin into a worthless piece of scrap metal is by wiping the surface with a cloth, a brush, or a chemical polish. The moment you try to clean the tarnish off, you create microscopic hairlines across the soft copper. You destroy the original mint surface, you erase its history, and the collector value instantly collapses to zero. A perfectly preserved, uncleaned 1977 no-mint mark penny can cross the auction block for hundreds and sometimes well over $1,000, depending on the exact grade. But if you think Philadelphia is the only place hiding wealth, you need to look at what was happening with the machines out west. 1977 D penny. When the Denver Mint produced pennies in 1977, they stamped their iconic sharp letter D right below the date. The Denver Mint was operating under relentless pressure to supply the rapidly expanding western half of the American economy. Because of this incredibly rushed production schedule, the Denver Mint was pushing their solid steel dies to the absolute breaking point. Millions of 1977 D pennies were violently ejected into the banking system with soft, mushy, entirely blurry details. When you hold a 1977 D, flip it over and focus your eyes entirely on the Lincoln Memorial Building. Look closely at the steps leading up to the monument. Are the delicate lines in those steps deep, crisp, and perfectly separated, or do they look flat, washed out, and melted together from a worn-out die? Finding a heavily worn or weakly struck 1977 D is incredibly common, but finding one that was struck with massive crushing pressure from a brand new die, perfectly preserving every single step on that memorial and every strand of Lincoln's hair, is a true numismatic masterpiece. Wealthy coin collectors building elite registry sets will wait years for a flawlessly struck 1977 D to surface on the open market. When an untouched mint state 68 red example appears, the auction room falls completely silent. Bidding is not casual, it is a calculated, aggressive war. These collectors know exactly how hard it is to find a Denver strike from the late 70s that still holds its original uninterrupted mint red luster without any ugly black carbon spots. These coins act as a silent fortune hiding behind a single tiny letter, frequently commanding massive premiums. But the absolute peak of the 1977 treasure hunt is not just about a perfect strike, it's about the monumental, unbelievable mistakes the government accidentally released into the wild. 1977 doubled die obverse error. This is the hidden monster of the late 70s. This is the ultimate treasure that people are blindly spending or throwing back into the cash jar without a second thought. The United States Mint relies on violently heavy machinery, and sometimes, during the complex hubbing process of creating the coin dies, the image is struck twice and slightly offset. This creates a doubled die error. The 1977 penny holds variations of this mistake that are incredibly hard to spot with the naked eye, which is exactly why they are so dangerous and so unbelievably valuable to those who know what to look for. You can't see this by just casually glancing at the coin in the palm of your hand from a distance. You need a jeweler's loupe. Grab your magnifying glass and look incredibly closely at the front of your 1977 penny. Focus your absolute attention on the word Liberty sitting to the left of Abraham Lincoln's portrait. Do the letters look unusually thick? Do you see a faint secondary outline on the lettering or a noticeable split on the bottom corners of the letters? Now move your eyes up to the phrase "In God We Trust." Does the lettering look stretched, distorted, or clearly doubled? If you see that distinct doubling, your heart should be pounding. This is not a scratch. This is not post-mint damage from a vending machine. This is a genuine, documented mint error that completely escaped the facility decades ago. Error collectors are a completely different breed of buyers. They don't care if the coin is perfectly shiny and red. They care exclusively about the government's mistake itself. A circulated 1977 doubled die penny can command massive money, and an uncirculated one is a true lottery ticket. These coins create intense bidding wars that push the value into life-changing territory. But the absolute peak of the 1977 treasure hunt is not just about a perfect strike. It's about the monumental, unbelievable mistakes the government accidentally released into the wild. 1977 penny struck on a dime planchet. This is the holy grail of 1977, a mint error so severe and so visually shocking that it barely looks real. In the chaotic environment of the mint, massive bins of blank metal discs called planchets are moved around constantly. Very rarely a blank planchet intended for a completely different coin gets stuck in the hopper and falls into the penny presses. In 1977, a few blank dime manchets fell into the machinery and were struck by the 1977 Lincoln penny dies. If you ever find a 1977 penny that is silver in color, slightly smaller than a normal penny, and weighs exactly 2.27 grams instead of 3.11 grams, stop breathing. You have just found an off-metal strike. Because the dime planchet is smaller, the edges of Lincoln's portrait and the lettering might be cut off or missing. This is a museum-level mint error. When authentic off-metal strikes from the 1970s hit the auction block, the bidding explodes into thousands, and sometimes well over $1,000, depending on the exact grade. But if you think Philadelphia is the only place hiding wealth, you need to look at what was happening with the machines out west. And the most shocking part of all of this is that these coins are still out there right now. They're sitting in old glass jars, hiding in antique desk drawers, and completely unrecognized by people who think a 1977 penny is just a cheap, common coin. Stop ignoring your old currency. Check the dates, check the mint marks, get a magnifying glass, weigh your unusual coins, and hunt down those errors. Protect your finds, never clean them, and realize that the next massive hidden fortune could already be sitting right there in the palm of your hand. If you look in your pocket, your wallet, or the floorboard of your car right now, you are almost guaranteed to find a penny with the year 2021 stamped on it. It feels like it was just minted yesterday. Because it is so unbelievably new, 99% of the population makes a devastating financial assumption. They look at that shiny, modern shield on the back, they see the recent date, and they instantly write it off as completely worthless pocket change. They assume that because it is not a 100-year-old antique, it has zero historical significance and absolutely no value to collectors. But that exact psychological blind spot is the reason why silent modern fortunes are slipping through the fingers of everyday Americans without them ever realizing it. Welcome to USA Coin Reveal. Today, we are completely destroying the myth that brand new money is just cheap zinc. We are taking a deep dive into the 2021 Lincoln Shield cent. We are exposing the fragile, flawless survivors, the microscopic mechanical errors, and the violent die breaks that occurred when the government pushed their machines past the breaking point, creating mistakes that wealthy collectors are quietly paying massive money to own right now. 2021 No Mint Mark Penny. Let us start with the coin you are most likely holding in your hand right now. If you look directly below the date 2021 and see absolutely nothing, that penny was born at the Mother Mint in Philadelphia. To understand the hidden wealth inside this specific modern coin, you have to understand the unprecedented chaos of the year it was made. In 2021, the United States was aggressively trying to claw its way out of a historic nationwide coin shortage. Banks were empty, businesses were begging for change, and the Philadelphia Mint was ordered to pump out currency at an absolutely staggering, terrifying velocity to keep the economy moving. But here's the secret most people do not know about modern pennies. They are incredibly, almost laughably fragile. This is not the solid, heavy copper of the 1940s. A 2021 penny is built with a highly reactive, soft zinc core, coated in a microscopically thin layer of pure copper plating. It weighs exactly 2.5 grams. The very second these coins were violently ejected from the mint presses and dumped into massive canvas bags, they started getting destroyed. They were scratched by automated rolling machines, dropped on concrete floors, and exposed to the oils on human hands. Because that copper plating is so thin, even a microscopic scratch allows air to hit the zinc, causing immediate black carbon spotting, bubbling, and permanent zinc rot. Because they are so incredibly fragile, finding a circulated 2021 penny is easy, but those damaged coins are only worth 1 cent. However, that undeniable fragility is exactly where your massive financial opportunity begins. Elite coin collectors do not pay premiums for average modern coins. They pay for absolute, untouched perfection. Wealthy buyers who build modern registry sets are hunting for a 2021 Philadelphia penny that looks like it is frozen in time. If you can find one in a flawless, pristine mint state 68 or 69 condition, a coin with blinding, uninterrupted red copper luster and zero physical flaws across Abraham Lincoln's profile or the Union Shield, the value absolutely explodes. But you must listen to this warning. Never, ever try to wipe a fingerprint off a modern penny. The second you rub that delicate copper plating with your shirt or a cloth, you create microscopic hairlines, destroying the mint surface and instantly dropping its collector value to zero. An untouched, perfect 2021 no mint mark penny commands serious money on the auction block. But if you think Philadelphia was chaotic, you need to look at what happened out west. 2021 D penny. When the Denver Mint fired up their massive presses in 2021, they stamped their sharp, iconic letter D right below the date. Denver was under the exact same crushing mandate to flood the country with coins. Because they were running the presses at maximum capacity day and night, the quality control completely fell apart. Millions of 2021 D pennies were pushed into the banking system struck by completely exhausted, worn-out steel dies. When you hold a 2021 D, flip it over and focus your eyes entirely on the Union Shield on the reverse. Look closely at the vertical lines inside the shield and the banner draped across it. Are those lines deep, crisp, and perfectly separated, or do they look mushy, washed out, flat, and blended together? Finding a weakly struck 2021 D is incredibly common, but finding one that was struck with crushing pressure from a brand new die, perfectly preserving every single detail of the shield and every sharp strand of Lincoln's hair, puts you in a completely different financial bracket. Elite coin collectors will wait months to find a flawlessly struck 2021 D penny to complete their modern sets. When a Mint State 69 red example hits the auction room, bidding becomes a calculated war between deep-pocketed buyers who know how frustrating it is to find a perfect Denver strike from this chaotic year. These coins act as a silent fortune hiding behind a single tiny letter. But the 2021 treasure hunt isn't just about perfect condition, it's about massive mechanical government mistakes. 2021 doubled die obverse error. This is the hidden monster of modern currency. The United States Mint uses single squeeze hubbing technology today, which was supposed to completely eliminate double die errors forever, but it didn't. Under the intense pressure of 2021, the massive machinery slipped. During the complex process of creating the coin dies, the image was slightly misaligned. This created a ghosted, duplicated image directly on the steel die itself, which was then permanently stamped onto thousands of pennies before the inspectors ever noticed. You can't see this by casually glancing at the coin in your hand. You need a jeweler's loupe. Grab your magnifying glass and look incredibly closely at the front of your 2021 penny. Focus your absolute attention on the word Liberty. Do the letters look usually thick, swollen, or distorted? Do you see a noticeable split on the bottom corners of the letters or a faint secondary outline? Now, check the phrase "In God We Trust" and the numbers and the date 2021 itself. If you see distinct, undeniable doubling, your heart should be pounding. This is a genuine, highly sought-after mint error. Modern error collectors are aggressively hunting for these because they are so rare in the modern era. A genuine 2021 double die can spark intense bidding wars, pushing its value into the hundreds of dollars, turning a single cent into life-changing money. But there is one more mistake from 2021 that is even more violent and visually shocking. 2021 severe die crack and cud error. Because the Mint was pushing their machinery so hard in 2021, the actual solid steel dies used to stamp the coins began to shatter under the extreme tonnage. First, microscopic cracks would form in the steel. If you look at a 2021 penny and see a strange raised, jagged line of copper running across Lincoln's head or cutting through the shield on the back, that's a die crack. But sometimes the mint workers didn't stop the presses in time. The crack would spread until a massive chunk of the steel die literally broke off and fell away. When that broken die struck a blank penny, the massive pressure forced the soft copper up into the empty hole. This creates what collectors call a cud error, a huge, smooth, raised blob of metal attached to the edge of the coin, completely obliterating parts of the design. A 2021 massive cud error is a museum-level freak of nature. They are visually stunning, incredibly rare, and when they hit the open market, error specialists lose their minds. These coins easily command hundreds of dollars, acting as the ultimate jackpot hiding in plain sight. The most shocking part of all of this is that these rare 2021 pennies are out there right now, circulating in your daily life. They're sitting in tip jars, hiding in self-checkout machines, and completely ignored by people who think new money is worthless. Stop throwing away your wealth. Check the dates, check the mint marks, get a magnifying glass, and hunt down those modern errors.